The fallout of the disaster of the Democrats' government shutdown continues, and it's just unseemly. It's frankly wrong and inappropriate to just sit here and laugh at them as they continue to fall apart. We're not the type to just dance on the grave of our political opponents as they get buried 6, maybe even 12 feet under, right? That's not our style. Who am I kidding? It's fantastic. First, we'll start with Harry Enten over on CNN that delivered the really bad news for Chuck Schumer, for the Democrats, and of course for the host and producers at CNN.
How are Democrats feeling overall about Schumer? We've seen a lot of comments from some House Democrats, but what about overall?
What about Democrats nationwide feeling about Chuck Schumer? I think the word of the day is terrible, 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 terrible. To quote another Charles Barkley when it comes to Chuck Schumer, look at this. Least popular Dem Senate leader ever. I looked at all of the polls going all the way back since 1985. The one who has the lowest rating among Democrats is, in fact, Chuck Schumer. Look at this. He's underwater with Democrats. His own party, he's underwater. He's at -4 points. That makes him the least popular guy for a Dem Senate leader going all the way back since the mid-1980s at least.
Do you have a sense of why?
Why? It's because Democrats, they want a fighter. They want a fighter. That's why. Take a look here. Democrats, Dems in Congress do too little to oppose Trump. During the first term, it was just 46% in 2017. That's the percentage of Democrats who said that the Dems in Congress are doing too little to oppose Donald Trump. Look at where we are now, 69%. That is an increase of, get this, 23 points. The super duper majority of Democrats believe that the Democrats in Congress are not doing enough to oppose Donald Trump. And that, of course, is a big, huge criticism of Chuck Schumer. And that is why he is underwater.
As animated as Harry Enten is, and there's a little bit more here, and it continues to be bad news for Chuck Schumer. A couple of observations here. First of all, look at the sads on the host of this show here with the red jacket. Look at how miserable she is. And again, it's unseemly. It's wrong to dance on the grave of Democrats and their partners in the media. But if it's wrong, I don't want to be right. Okay. Number one. Number two, if you look at this, and I feel sympathy for Chuck Schumer, I have to say, I'll admit it. I feel sympathy for him because unfortunately for Chuck Schumer and fortunately for the rest of us, it appears that the base of the Democrat voting bloc who responded to the CNN poll are complete and utter morons. They're so counterintuitive. So we just come off this 40-day disastrous shutdown that hurt the American people, hurt your neighbors, hurt your military, hurt your air travel. It got so bad that even Democrats are like, all right, enough. This is awful. And Democrat voters in the base are like, you're not doing enough. You've got to oppose Trump. By the way, this is at the same time that Democrat leadership are lying in front of cameras saying, listen, we can't do anything because the Republicans control the House and the White House and the Senate. So they've got all the control. If the government shut down, it's all their fault. And their very own base is saying, do more. While the Democrats are saying, we can't do anything. It's just exquisite. And by the way, it's a disaster of their own making. This is what they get. You see, they've spent the last 10 years telling you that Donald Trump is Hitler, telling you that Donald Trump is a fascist, telling you that Donald Trump is worse than Stalin and Hitler combined, telling you that if Donald Trump were president, that would be the end of our Constitution, our democratic process, and we wouldn't have another election, even though we just had an election. But they've said all of that. And so their base is so riled up and so frothy and so out of their brains that they think, my God, if he's that bad, you've got to stop him. Do whatever it takes. Burn down the Capitol. We don't care. Just stop him. And of course, the Democrats who have been saying all of that about Trump know that that's not the case. So they're like, well, I don't know what we can do. And the fact is they can't do anything. So they're screwed. They can't do anything. Their base demands that they do more. When they try to do something, it's a disaster. They finally pull the plug and their base continues to say it's not enough. And it's all they're doing. It's all their fault. So enjoy this.
Criticism of Chuck Schumer, and that is why he is underwater.
I knew you were going to do the dip. All right.
I always do the dip.
You
I
always
need
do
my
the dip.
exercise
You
in the
do.
morning.
There has been talks of a challenge to Schumer. What are you saying on that front? Who looks like they're in place to do it?
Okay, so you see this opening slide here, and you see, of course, that Chuck Schumer is underwater with Democrats nationally. But, of course, the ultimate way to get Chuck Schumer out of office is to beat him in New York State. So how do New York State Democrats feel about Chuck Schumer? And take a look here. The net favorable among New York Democrats. Chuck Schumer is above water with the Democrats in his home state, but just by 16 points. Look at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez running way ahead. If she decides to challenge Chuck Schumer come 2028, she's got a real leg up on the competition. I dare say at this point she would be the favorite to beat him, which would be something that would just blow my mind, even just a few years ago, given that Chuck Schumer, of course, is a New York born bred type of guy.
Yeah, those are incredible.
Look at that, 30
there.
points ahead. My goodness gracious.
That's a lot. All right, Harry Enten, you're always 100% ahead of the curve.
Ah,
I do appreciate you.
thank you.
All right, so we'll see. I personally think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is more interested in running for president because, being a senator, that's actually a real job. I mean, in some respects, especially compared to being one out of 435 members of the House. And I'm not saying that being president isn't a hard job too, but let's face it, that she's not contemplating being president versus being senator. She's contemplating running for president versus being a senator. And frankly, I think it's a much easier lifestyle and much more lucrative to stay in the House of Representatives, where you never have to worry about ever losing an election again, basically, and then running for president every 4 years or so and making all that money you make from being a superstar on the national stage. That's my prediction. I could be wrong. I often am, but at least I admit it. Meanwhile, what about that challenge to Chuck Schumer? Because those numbers, unsustainable. A few people are speaking out about it, but mostly people who aren't in the Senate, understandably. But here is another Democrat. We talked about him yesterday, Khanna. He appeared on, I'm sorry, is that Don Lemon's show? Don wore a hoodie for the occasion. Khanna apparently will go to the opening of an envelope. So, yeah. Hey, Congressman Khanna, you've got another media hit. I'll take it. I'll do it. Wait, I haven't told you who it is. I'll take it. I'll do it. It's Don Lemon. All right, I'll take it. I'll do it. Okay, Khanna, tell us.
If Chuck Schumer called you today or he dropped by your office or you went by his office, what would you say to him?
I'd say, look, Senator, it's not personal. I respect some of the things you've accomplished in your career. I get that we would not have had the Chips and Science Act if it weren't for your leadership. I get that we would not have had the Inflation Reduction Act, but for your leadership. I appreciated what you did with the bipartisan infrastructure bill. But you know what? You've just lost touch with where the base of the party is. You've lost touch on foreign policy, where you supported the war in Iraq and then a blank check to Netanyahu, and you refused to endorse Mamdani. And then this is the second time you've had the shutdown fight, and you've caved both times. And it's time for you to gracefully make way for a new generation.
Okay, so that's Khanna in the House. Of course, he has no say in the Senate, but one wonders if his allies in the Senate have given the green light for this kind of pressure campaign. As we mentioned yesterday, I speculated that Chris Van Hollen may be one of the people behind the scenes pushing for this narrative. Meanwhile, he's not the only one. Seth Moulton, when last you saw him, he was opening up the door for a giant defamation suit from Donald Trump by saying on Morning Joe, not suggesting, saying on Morning Joe that Donald Trump, along with Jeffrey Epstein, took advantage of young girls. Here's Seth Moulton on CNN now, asked about Chuck Schumer.
Do you think that Chuck Schumer should step aside now and let someone else lead Democrats in the Senate?
I think it would be better. I think it'd be better than the status quo. And I hear this from Democrats all across Massachusetts. Everywhere I go, people say there's a leadership vacuum right now in the Democratic Party. We need new leadership. We've got to stop protecting this establishment status quo that's gotten us a second term of Donald Trump. And he's hurting a lot of people, a lot of Americans all across this country. A lot of people right here in Massachusetts are being hurt by this administration. I mean, the guy literally went to the Supreme Court this past weekend and pleaded with them to allow him to let Americans starve. What kind of president is this? And now we're going to give in to him? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, just fact check there. The president did not go to the Supreme Court to allow him to let children starve. That's despicable and disgusting. But again, this is Seth Moulton, the man who said that Donald Trump took advantage of little girls. No, what he did was he went to the Supreme Court to protect the constitutional independence of the executive branch from a lone judge trying to dictate what the executive branch could do. It's almost like he's trying to make sure that we don't have kings in this country, kings in black robes. You know, last I checked, there was a whole no kings thing going on here. The president actually protected the executive branch and the Constitution from a king in a black robe forcing money to be spent on a program where there was no money to spend on the program because the legislative branch has not funded it. But far be it for me to step in and do the job of Casey Hunt there on CNN, or for that matter, to fact check a congressman when he's lying through his teeth to you. But there you go. There's two congressmen now saying Chuck Schumer's got to go. Did you also catch there that he's blaming Chuck Schumer and the leadership in the Senate for Donald Trump being elected? It's amazing to me how they refuse to blame the people who are obviously to blame for losing the election, and that would be Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They can't bring themselves to do that. But they're blaming Chuck Schumer for, I mean, honestly, you start to feel a little sorry for Schumer. And then you get over it quickly because you realize that he's odious and not worthy of that. Meanwhile, high-ranking Democrat analysts now say the quiet part out loud, which is this is no longer your Democrat party. This is not Kennedy's party or Clinton's party for that matter. This is Bernie Sanders' party, AOC's party, Zohran Mamdani's party, and in absentia, Fidel Castro's and Vladimir Lenin's party.
Represents part of a state that has the second highest number of people on Obamacare, on the ACA, who need these subsidies desperately, right? Who has SNAP, these are people who desperately need SNAP benefits. They're hurting their own constituents. And yet,
should Chuck Schumer go?
And yet, yes, Chuck Schumer should go. I'm sorry to say Chuck Schumer should go. I've voted for him many times. I am ideologically quite aligned with where he is as a senator, but he's no longer capable of running this caucus. He's no longer capable of leading the Democratic Party. I am a lifeline. I am an establishment Democrat, and I'm here to say that Bernie Sanders is much more in line with where I and many other Democrats are today than Chuck Schumer is. And, if you would have asked me that 5 years ago, I would have laughed at you. So that just to underscore exactly how furious Democrats are today for putting the country through this without having an out.
So in the meantime, as we wait for members of the...
Okay, so just so you know what she just said there, she said, I'm an establishment Democrat, and Bernie Sanders is more in line with me and the mainstream of our party than Chuck Schumer is. And it's not like Bernie Sanders has changed. So what changed? It makes you wonder whether they're all having regrets for stopping Bernie Sanders immorally, unethically, maybe even illegally back in 2016 from getting the nomination from Hillary Clinton. You wonder if they can look themselves in the mirror and recognize that it's what they did to get them to this point now. The sad thing is that we have now said the senator of Vermont's name collectively 3 times, and that means, like Beetlejuice, he emerges. And by the way, looking a little like Beetlejuice, at least in the corpse-like fashion that he brings to the table. Here's Bernie talking about Chuck and the politics of the moment.
Look, what you got right now, Chuck Schumer is part of the establishment. And I'm sorry to say that many people in the Democratic caucus are part of it. I would say we have 8 or 9 out of 47 people who I would consider to be progressives. So you can argue, and I can make the case that Chuck Schumer has done a lot of bad things. But I think getting rid of him, who's going to replace him? Who is going to replace him? The issue right now is doing primaries, getting people involved in the political process who are going to create a government and an economy that works for everybody, who have the guts to take on the oligarchs. So I think we need to take on the Democratic establishment all over this country.
And as a follow-up to that, because he didn't really say all of it out loud there because he's on MSNBC and it's not quite radical enough. They don't want to scare the mainstream left-wing liberal blue sky type Democrats who are watching MSNBC. So then he showed up on a podcast appealing to the fringe, and he said it all the way. He went one step further there about, yeah, Chuck Schumer, he's part of the establishment, he's part of the problem, but I'm not even focused on that right now. I'm focused on bringing all the new blood socialists into the party. That's the real next step here, so we can get rid of these people once and for all. Take them out of leadership, that ain't enough. No. It's the great replacement theory there in the Democrat Party, where they're replacing Pelosi and Schumer and the Clintons and all that with Zoran Mamdani's. I said this to you the day after the election last week, that the real story here is not Virginia, not New Jersey. The story is Zoran, not because he's the future of the party, but because that's where the party is today, not the future, today. And by 2028, as I said, you're going to have hundreds of Zoran Mamdani's running for office. Bernie, am I right or am I right?
So what we have got to do is go above and beyond what happened yesterday, that terrible, terrible vote, and understand that, yes, you have parts of the Democratic establishment who are way, way out of touch with where the American people are or where we have got to go. And our job is to build a political movement. We are doing it with the 3 candidates for the Senate. I expect more to come with many candidates in the House. Candidates all over this country running for local office. We're going to build that movement, grassroots movement, to do what Mamdani did in New York City, all over this country.
All over the country. This is Bernie Sanders' party now. It's been moving in this direction really since after 2016, but now it's solidified. It's over. So you've got Chuck Schumer, the most hated Democrat leader in the Senate in history, according to polls. We just showed it to you. They're all calling for his ouster. And now, as I just said, it's the great Democrat socialist replacement theory, as it's not just enough to get them out of power. They need to be replaced by the legions, the armies of Bernie Sanders' little Marxist socialists to take their place. And we're all for it. Let them win all of those primaries so we can actually have a battleground of ideas here where we don't have, the little Talbots wearing, oh, look at me, I'm a moderate, Abigail Spanberger, pretending she's not the Marxist that she is. No. Let's actually have this battle based on the ideological lines that must be drawn at this point. You're either with Bernie Sanders, AOC, Zoran Mamdani, and the Marxists, or you're with freedom and free enterprise and American values. I'm willing to have that election. Now, you may be thinking that we're cherry picking here, that we're only picking the most radical left-wing Democrats to make the case that Chuck Schumer has lost all of his support, that he is a dead leader walk-in. Okay, fine. Let's go to one of your moderates, one of your reasonables, coming from a purple state, a guy who was on the short list to be vice president with Kamala Harris, and now is being rumored as a potential presidential candidate. Navy veteran, NASA astronaut, Mark Kelly. Mark Kelly was asked about his support for Chuck Schumer. This should be a no-brainer. This should be like falling off a log. Mark Kelly, well, of course he's going to support Schumer. He's one of the reasonable guys. He's one of the moderates, the centrists, right?
But it's Schumer. Hey, again, this is, I've been here 4.5 years now, and he's been the leader, and I understand why people look at this and say, well, this was kind of a rough period.
The question was, do you have confidence in Schumer? The answer could easily have been yes, and yet it was not. Let's get off the sidelines, head into the arena. My panel is here, and we're going to start with CNN chief congressional correspondent.
That's right. It was not. Pretty easy question to answer, and Casey's right there. It's a yes or no question. Do you have confidence in Chuck Schumer? And the answer was, listen, I understand why it was a bit of a shit show. Yeah. Okay. Well, President Trump was also asked about the current status of where things are with the Democrats.
Some that are absolutely terrible. I look at this Crockett. This is a very low IQ person. And I look at somebody that comes from Somalia where they don't have anything. They don't have police. They don't have military. They don't have anything. All they have is crime. And she comes in and tells us how to run our country. The Constitution says this, the Constitution. The whole thing is crazy.
Okay, so that's him reacting when asked, what do you think of this new crop of Democrats that are in charge? And he identifies Jasmine Crockett and Ilhan Omar, and you heard the assessment there. So, of course, Ilhan Omar needs to respond, as she does. And, well, you know what? I'll just let her speak for herself, and you can chew on it.
I mean, I have no worry. I don't know how they take away my citizenship and like deport me, but I don't even know like why that's such a scary threat. Like, I'm not the 8-year-old who escaped war anymore. I'm grown. My kids are grown. Like, I can go live wherever I want.
Okay. So I guess people are suggesting that she might be deported and her citizenship can be stripped from her, which I don't know if that's the case, although who knows? We live in a fascinating time, but she says she doesn't worry about that. She can go live wherever she wants. Go ahead, deport me. And by the way, it should be pointed out that when that video was posted, the White House actually responded in their own very distinctive way. Just perfect. Perfect. What a time to be alive. A+. No notes. That's what I voted for. Oh, what a time to be alive. It's exhilarating and exciting, and there's nothing but positive outlooks on the horizon. Unless you're Chuck Schumer.